The man sneaked into the girl's house to collect a debt. But strangely, the girl ignored him completely. She simply took a moldy piece of bread and hid in a corner to eat it. The man paid no attention to the girl and continued searching everywhere. But after searching every corner of the house, he found nothing. He asked the girl in a harsh tone where all the valuable items in the house were hidden. But the girl remained silent. After several inquiries and attempts to probe further, he finally realized that the girl was deaf and blind. A person with sensory impairments. He felt a pang of sympathy and wasn't sure whether to continue searching. The girl's mother owed him a lot of money, but she had been involved in an accident at work. As the acting team leader, the man had to go to the hospital to visit her. But to his surprise, the woman had already become a cold corpse. Since no relatives of the deceased could be found, the police could only hand over the mother's belongings to the man. He was deeply frustrated, unsure how to recover the money owed to him. So he followed the address to the woman's home, hoping to find something of value to offset the debt. But after a thorough search, he found nothing. He could only pin his hopes on the girl's father. Upon learning of his wife's tragic death, the man not only showed no signs of grief but instead berated him and said they had already divorced, then hung up the phone. The man, feeling depressed, lit a cigarette on the balcony. The girl smelled the familiar cigarette smoke and thought her mother had returned. She pounded on the floor, gesturing for her mother to come quickly. The man was confused and approached, but the girl immediately threw herself into his arms. It wasn't until she touched his face that she suddenly realized he wasn't her mother. He screamed in terror. The scream quickly caught the landlord's attention. To avoid further complications, the man had no choice but to open the door for the female landlord outside. But before he could explain anything, the female landlord mistakenly thought he was the girl's father. She berated him with the harshest words, saying he was an unfit father, and urged him to pay next month's rent immediately. Otherwise, she would refund the deposit at the end of the month, and told him to take the girl and move out. Hearing that there was a deposit to be refunded, the man saw a glimmer of hope. He decided to play along and claimed he was the girl's father, promising to move out next month. Seeing that the landlord didn't suspect anything, he secretly rejoiced, thinking the deposit was as good as his. But when he returned to his place, his belongings had already been thrown out by the landlord, as he simply couldn't afford to renew the lease. His first thought was to stay temporarily at the girl's house and move out after receiving the deposit next month. The girl touched the leather shoes by the door and realized they weren't her mother's. It must be that man returning. She nervously took a piece of bread and hid in the corner to eat it, perhaps out of sympathy. The man ordered 2 bowls of fried sauce noodles and handed one to the girl. Smelling the aroma, the girl swallowed her saliva many times, but in the end, she didn't eat a single bite. In her heart, this man was still a threat. To ease the girl's concerns, he deliberately hid the shoes by the door, making her think he had left. He then threw away all the moldy bread. But when the girl couldn't find any bread on the table, his emotions erupted, and he burst into tears. The man quickly brought over the fried sauce noodles, gesturing that they were better, but the girl swatted it away. He finally lost his patience and vented his anger with the harshest words. But seeing the girl crying, he couldn't help but soften his heart and bought her fresh bread again. When she smelled the fresh bread again, the girl suddenly realized that the man